Well, as you all know, our theme for March is integrity. And like the song said, integrity is a matter of choice. And each of us is living a Blimey spiritual life, which is the title of my talk this morning, because each of us is choosing our way towards what might become a better outcome for our lives. If we are curious enough to look at the truth about our lives, we might be brave enough to move towards who we want to be. And like the song said, I choose to be one who bears no judgment. I choose to be one who sets the captives free. And at the age of 16, St. Patrick was kidnapped from his native homeland of Britain and taken overseas to Ireland to tend sheep as a slave. And during the 7 years that he spent in Ireland, he became a Christian. And one night, a voice came to him in his dreams, telling him to escape. He found passage on a pirate ship, and he was reunited with his family back in Britain. Later on, years later, the voice returned and told him to go back to Ireland. And he spent the rest of his life converting the Irish people to Christianity. So when we find ourselves connecting to a deeper sense of who we are, we grow our conscious awareness of our connection to Source. And our faith deepens, and we become aware of our destiny or our journey. And St. Patrick's Day was first celebrated in 1737 in the United States, and there are approximately 34.7 million people in this country with Irish blood. Isn't that amazing? The shamrock, which is the national flower as well as the emblem of Ireland, has 4 petals. And the 4 petals represent hope, faith, love, and luck. And it wasn't until the 70s that it actually became a holiday in Ireland. It was very low-key before that, just a small celebration in people's homes. The color was originally blue, but it became green because of the nickname for Ireland of the Emerald Island. And although there aren't any snakes in Ireland, and there never were, Freeman says that when Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, it was symbolically saying that he drove the old, evil, pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age. So it wasn't until centuries later that St. Patrick was actually honored as their patron saint. And the original or authentic shamrock actually had only 3 leaves. And St. Patrick used to use that shamrock to explain the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or what we would call mind, body, and spirit. So rituals that assure a deeper connection with the One can change the way we think and feel about the power and the presence. It can also change how we interpret and react to our experiences. Sometimes we will stumble. Sometimes we will fall. But the important thing to remember, like the song says, if I choose wrong, I can choose again. So when we begin to affirm that only good thoughts reach us, our faith makes an absolute impression upon our consciousness. And because it is positive, it becomes the ruling force of our life. So if we imagine God like the vastness of the sea, always in motion, and we imagine ourselves immersed in that sea of love, just like the waves can't separate themselves from the ocean, we can't be separate from Source. So we either have faith in love or we have faith in fear. And we all know the acronym for fear, which is false evidence appearing real. Who remembers the acronym for faith? Fabulous attitude in the house. So in our Science of Mind study group, we had a little conversation around that. And Sherry came up with the idea that the H should represent heart instead of house. So it's now been transformed to fabulous attitude in the heart, which is where we are connected to the divine. And as we recognize that universal nature and accept that love, abundance, creativity, and health are our divine birthright, they begin to manifest in and through our experience. What's important to understand is that we don't create them. They already exist. What we do is we get in alignment with the power and the presence, and then it manifests through us. Holmes teaches us in Love and Law, if you could realize the tremendous power of attraction that holds everything in its place, it is yours. It is yours, this gift. Because the human mind and the divine mind are one and the same, the mind we use in our reasoning becomes as much of that divine mind as we can begin to imagine. And sometimes the challenge is admitting to ourselves, not to mention anyone else, the games we sometimes play. We might think that if anyone were to discover the truth about us, they would recoil in horror. But in actuality, if anyone were to discover the real truth about us, they would be dazzled by the light of love that emanates from within. So let's affirm together this morning, I am of God. I am of God. And God is love. And God is love. So love is all there is. So love is all there is. The only way that I will wake up to heaven is to understand that what I give is what I get. Since we are thinking beings and we can't stop thinking, our biggest challenge is to change our negative thought patterns. I had a client one time who used to always say that you could do any job if you have the right tools. And that is what Science of Mind is for me. It is the right tool. It has taught me that I can change my experience by simply changing my thinking. And when I do, I rise to an elevated state of consciousness, and I begin to see things in their completeness. I understand that the power and the presence is behind everything and everyone. We create our experience through our thinking. So it's time to begin expressing ourselves as who and what we really are. When was the last time you really took a deep look at yourself? Cut through all the superficiality and all the trivial things to the very center of your beingness. Howard Thurman, who the talks are based on this month, says, what is it, after all, that I amount to ultimately? Often that deeper look happens out of necessity. Perhaps we lose someone close to us and we go through a period of grieving. Maybe a member of our family has a very serious sickness, or maybe we also become sick. Or maybe we start buying into the idea of lack, limitation, fear. And what I have to say about that is, Blimey. The word blimey is used to express excitement or alarm or surprise. For example, blimey, I didn't see that coming. And the origin of the word is actually God, blind, me. So you've heard the expression, God only gives you what you can handle. So sometimes it can be a blessing because it's a protection mechanism. We pass through times of great strength and great power. We also pass through times of pain and disappointment. The only variable is how we react to it. No matter how many times we fail, it's never too late to change our direction towards good. We have to end the search for love, peace, and happiness and discover that they already exist within us. The quality of life depends upon how conscious we are of our union with something greater than we are. So every one of us is living a Blimey spiritual life, whether we know it or not. Wherever we are on our spiritual path, when we find ourselves out of integrity with what we've chosen, we have to stop defining ourselves by the things that we do poorly and begin to emphasize and focus upon the things that we do rightly. Integrity requires an inner sense of wholeness. It also requires a consistency of character. People should be able to visibly see integrity in our thoughts, our words, our actions. Cameron tells us that living a spiritual life means both that every point we take the high road and we begin to recognize when we don't, so that we can transform our journey. When you are whole and consistent, there is only one you. And you've always heard that expression, wherever I go, there I am. So we bring all of our beliefs with us, no matter where we are. As spiritual beings having a human experience, we have one foot on the human path and one foot in the divine. So it's up to us to recognize our own inner spiritual presence. Let's affirm together. Today I choose to walk on the high road. Today I choose to walk on the high road with Spirit as my companion and friend. With Spirit as my companion and friend. And as Anna sang in the inspirational song, when we choose to dance ourselves back to the garden, angel voices sing us on our way, guiding our lives towards a deeper awareness. And Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, and just the most incredibly gifted soul that I've ever experienced, in his book entitled Creative Living, says there is nothing that life could possibly withhold from its creation, since it has poured its imagination and thought and feeling into everything and spilled it over. So when we walk the spiritual path towards higher ground, we open a channel for the outflow of that which eternally inflows into our experience. And that is what is symbolized by the Science of Mind symbols on either side of me. So we need to integrate our thinking with what we value. We need to open up the doors of our consciousness, expand our awareness of the infinite nature of the universe. So living a Blimey spiritual life is a matter of choice. Every moment we can choose love. And so I invite you to listen for that inner guidance. I invite you to experience life as a joyful journey. May the luck of the Irish be with you. Namaste.